They found him in the shadows of an abandoned villa, hiding like a hunted animal. The imperial guards kicked open the wine cellar door, and there he was, Sporus. His hands shook as he clutched a tiny vial of poison, his last hope of escape. He wasn't a rebel, nor a criminal plotting treason. He was something far stranger. The boy who had once been the Empress of Rome, just 20 years old, and now choosing death rather than suffer the nightmare the new emperor had prepared for him in the Colosseum. But to understand why a young man forced to live as a woman believed suicide was the only mercy left to him, we must rewind 3 years back to the moment when one man's madness turned an innocent life into one of the most chilling stories of Rome's history. This isn't just another tale of Roman cruelty or imperial excess. What you're about to hear is the most disturbing act of identity theft the ancient world had ever seen. Not the theft of money, not a stolen name or inheritance, but the theft of a person's entire existence. A life erased and rebuilt to satisfy a ruler's sick obsession. And the worst part, everything comes straight from the official records of Rome. The year was 65 AD. Rome stood at the height of its glory. And at the heart of this empire, its master had just crossed a line too shocking even for Romans hardened by violence. Nero, emperor of the known world, had murdered his wife. Not through the public spectacle of execution, not on the battlefield where killing was expected. No, he killed her with his own hands in their private chambers. Her name was Pompea Sabina, and she was pregnant with his child when she died. Some accounts say it was a single vicious kick to her swollen belly. Others speak of a savage beating that left her broken and bleeding on the marble floor. Nero's rage cooled only when it was too late, when he suddenly realized what he had done. Desperate, he screamed for physicians, demanding they reverse the irreversible. But even emperors descended from gods couldn't command the dead to breathe again. Pompea wasn't just any empress. She was Nero's obsession, the golden thread in his twisted world. Writers of the time spoke of her beauty as if she were touched by divinity. Her amber hair glowed like fire in sunlight. Her pale skin seemed to shine with unnatural brilliance. And her vast, soft eyes poets compared to those of Venus herself, could enslave the most jaded heart. She wasn't just his wife. She was the mirror of his fantasies, the one person who fed his delusion that he was more than a man. But here's the truth few understand about Nero's grief. It wasn't grief at all. When you rule 60 million souls and are raised to believe your blood carries the fire of gods, death is not a natural end. It's a personal insult. The universe itself had dared to defy him by stealing the woman he loved, and Nero would not forgive the universe. His reaction to Pompea's death horrified even the jaded Roman court. He refused the ancient rites of cremation. Instead, he ordered her embalmed with enough rare spices to drain the wealth of kingdoms. Her body, draped in royal silks, was sealed inside a crystal coffin so he could gaze upon her whenever he pleased. Servants whispered of dinners where her place was set at the table, and the emperor carried on long conversations with the corpse as if she still lived. He would ask her opinion on politics, lean close as though listening to her answer, and dismiss his advisors in a fury if they dared laugh or question. The palace doctors, those bold or foolish enough to try, told him grief could drive men to strange behaviors. But this was more than sorrow. This was a mind splitting apart. Nero stopped sleeping unless drugged with heavy wine laced with poppy. He would bolt upright at night, shrieking Pompea's name, convinced he heard her voice echoing from the next chamber. Food itself lost all meaning for Nero. Nothing pleased him unless it was cooked and seasoned exactly the way Pompea had liked it. To him, every bite had to taste of her, or it was tasteless. He ordered her private chambers preserved like a holy shrine. Nothing could be moved, not even the position of her hairbrush on the dressing table. To disturb a single item was to risk his fury. But then came the most disturbing change of all. About 2 months after her death, Nero began to see her everywhere. In the face of a young slave girl pouring his wine, in the profile of a senator's wife glimpsed at the games, in the painted lips of prostitutes in the city's darkest districts. He would stop mid-sentence during official meetings, eyes locking on some poor woman who reminded him just barely of his dead empress. Sometimes he would lunge at them, seizing their faces in his hands, tilting their heads to the light, frantically searching for the ghost of Pompea's beauty in their features. The women screamed in terror, and the court froze in silence. All of Rome's palace staff held its collective breath, praying that this madness would burn itself out. But it didn't. It only deepened. Nero ordered hundreds of new portraits, statues, and busts of Pompeia, demanding artists not only reproduce her appearance, but somehow capture her very essence. When their works inevitably failed, how could paint and marble capture the spirit of the dead? He would collapse into rages. Some artists were beaten bloody. Others watched in horror as the emperor wept like a child, clutching their worthless sketches to his chest. Then late in 65 AD, everything changed. Nero was slogging through a stack of administrative documents, a mind-numbing duty he usually avoided. But this time he forced himself through the scrolls as a way to distract his fevered mind. One name was brought forward, a young freedman, recently promoted to a small clerical post. The boy was called in to be confirmed, and the emperor looked up. In that instant the world stopped. The boy standing before him, no more than 15 years old, had Pompeia's eyes. Not a passing similarity, not a faint resemblance. They were the same enormous dark-lashed eyes that had once ensnared Nero's soul, the same delicate cheekbones, the same nervous tilt of the head, even the same strange golden flecks in the irises that caught the lamplight. Nero rose so violently that scrolls tumbled to the marble floor. The court fell silent, watching as their emperor circled the boy like a predator circling prey. His face was not twisted with rage this time. No, this was something worse, a desperate manic joy. "What is your name?" Nero whispered. "Sporus, Divine Augustus." The boy answered, his voice trembling. And just like that, history changed forever.